जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी, यमुना तीरावनचारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे, जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम, जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय, जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रील प्रभुपाद। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने, नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Welcome everyone. Like always, anybody remembers what did we do last week?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Probably the first time when somebody tries to respond immediately after asking the question.
Yeah, sometimes I even don't answer properly, but yeah.
Hey, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
Prabhu, we did verses 56 and 57,
Yes,
where we spoke about uh, where the person who is conscious, who is engrossed in Krishna consciousness, how does he speak?
correct.
So hopefully we'll discuss the next three verses today, where how the person comes to where he will sit.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean that's pretty much.
Okay. So Arjun had asked How many questions in verse number 54?
Uh, he had asked 5 questions.
Four questions.
Sorry, 4 questions. Sorry.
Yeah. And the first question was answered in which verse?
Uh,
Verse number 55.
55. Yeah.
And verse number 56 and 57 were answering his second
Second
question,
question.
which is how does he speak? Meaning, how does he communicate himself to others? How does he use his intelligence and words? Do they get affected uh, by somebody's affection or neutrality? Oh, I realized I have not switched on the camera. Okay. So that is what Krishna says basically, that such a person, he doesn't get disturbed. Okay. He remains equipoised in happiness and distress in the same manner. He does not have any hankering or attachment for any material desire. He does not work towards fulfilling some material desire, and because of which he does not have a fear of either not obtaining it or not wanting to lose it, and because of which he does not feel anger as well if he loses it or if he doesn't obtain. So he's free from attachment, fear, and anger. Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. Okay, then the last point is unaffected by any kind of good, any evil, and he is fixed in proper knowledge. Is this clear, or any questions?
No problem. Uh,
Rohini Mataji, Garima Mataji.
Clear, Prabhuji.
Okay, and who all can switch on their cameras? It will be good to have eye to eye contact while speaking to all of you.
Prabhu, I cannot because I have a folded setup.
Acha, okay. Okay, fine. So we will move on to the verse number 58. Okay. Verse number 58 starts when Krishna starts answering Arjuna's third question. Okay. Now, as I had told you a few times before, that Bhagavad Gita is going to teach you something which is far different than what society has been teaching you so far. Okay. So one of these verses we are going to learn today, and why it is important. We will speak about it first before we go on to the verse, right? So, how many of you think that sense control is required for spiritual progress? How many of you think sense control is the right method for towards spiritual progress? Let me rephrase this question.
I think it should be one of the highest priority.
Okay, fine. Rohini Mataji, Garima Mataji.
Mm, Now that I've read the this one, I understand that Gita is trying to educate that sense control is important, but that doesn't mean that you refrain yourself from and you become a yogi. So I mean, you go and meditate in the Himalayas, but if you do all the chores in the name of Krishna, is what will lead you to the spiritual path. So, so the answer is not yes in this case, as far as I understood.
Okay, so if not sense control, then what would be the right method then?
What I understood was, do we the enough or the sufficient? Uh, so I'm not sure if the control is the right word. Like not, I mean, you at the in the right amount, in the right quantity. Like can't let things loose, like
So na kam na
so
jada,
so
sort of.
yeah, sort of like optimum, enough, sufficient, sort of. These are the words which would
Okay.
lead us to.
But that also is sense control only, right? Your senses, they want more, but you are controlling them, saying that no, you deserve only X quantity. I'm not giving you X plus Y. तो वो भी कंट्रोल ही हो
Yes,
गया ना.
yes, Praveen,
तो
yes.
अगर वो भी कंट्रोल है, तो देन इज सेंस कंट्रोल राइट और रॉन्ग?
Prabhuji, if
Right.
I may.
हाँ, या प्लीज प्लीज.
Prabhuji, I mean, it should be that the mind is mind. Basically, we have to engage in such a way that we have the right knowledge, so that the mind can control senses. Is that the
Yeah,
right way?
fair point. But again, the point is coming that sense control, right?
Huh.
It's required, right? Okay. Rohini Mataji, any answer from your side? No? Okay, fine, no problem. Let's see what Krishna says, okay? And how Krishna drives his point further, we will see that, okay? So, okay, verse number 58. Yada sam, oh, sorry. It is supposed to be spoken by who it is? I forgot.
Myself, myself.
Okay, great, nice. Fine. No problem. It's okay. Completely fine. Whatever you can speak, you can. Yada
Yeah, Prabhuji.
samharat. Ha.
Yeah, I was saying that only, that you decide, will decide
Yeah,
after you. I
yeah,
forgot the pattern. Sorry.
sure. Yada samharate chayam
Yada
Yada
samrite
samvit-
chayam
kurmonganiva sarvashah
Purmonangani va sarvasa
indriyanindriyarthebhyah
Indriyani indriyarthebhyah
tasya prajna pratisthita.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Yeah. So you want to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hmm. One who is able to withdraw his senses from the sense object as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in the perfect consciousness. So here I'll read the purport and then I'll take the meaning what I understood from this. Okay.
Okay.
Mm, uh, the test of a yogi or a devotee or a self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. So we'll elaborate here that first of all the senses we had Prabhuji had discussed this, that we have five perspective senses, sort of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Then there are five senses of action, that's hands, legs, speech, evacuation organs, and reproductive organs. Then above it are the subtle organs, subtle senses, which are mind, intelligence, and ego. So there are total 13 senses. So all these 13 senses need to be under the control. So we need to control them. And they say that the yogi, or who's self-realized, so who's on the journey, who's in the journey of realization, he has a plan according to his plan. So he's the person who has planned that how much does he need to control what senses or something like that. So there is a plan on which he moves. It's moves moves. And then what does he do is, most of the people, however, are servants of the senses, while the other side, the person who's not a yogi, are basically, they are adhin, or they are servants of the senses. So we go, that we are hungry, so we go and eat endlessly, or not as per the plan. So they are servants of the senses and thus directed by the dictation of the senses. So that means senses are the ones which are controlling us, uh, which are
Mind.
feeding us, rather, which are feeding us, rather than the like we are governing them. Or now who I'll take this later, like what should be done kind. That is the answer to the question as how the yogi is situated, which Arjuna had asked, that how does the yogi sit. So that means the senses are compared here as a venomous serpent. So they are, it's compared to a very venomous serpents. That means they want to act very loosely without restriction. They want to do so. They are always they also always want to um, ob, you know. Uh, Bhog, they always want to have more. So object of senses, these senses, they take they always want to take more. It's like adding ghee in the fire. So you have, give little, they want to have more. You give little, they want to have more. You give more, they want to have more. So that is when our human daily activities are bound or are under the control of the senses, the regular human being, and not for a yogi. A yogi is the one who's sthir, who has a control uh, over these, the serpents of whom what we have talked about. The yogi or a devotee must be very strong to control the serpents, like a snake charmer. So snake charmer means who's controlling the snakes. Snakes have been defined, this our senses have been defined as those snakes. And now in this case, the yogi's case, he is controlling the serpents, not the other way around, where the senses have the control over us. He never allows them to act independently, means on their own. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do nots and some of them are do's. So there are things that are inscribed that they should be done and should not be done. Unless one is able to follow the do's and the don'ts, restricting oneself from the sense enjoyment, it is not possible to firmly be fixed in the Krishna consciousness. So here, it's been defined that there are in the scriptures there are specific do's and there are specific don'ts. Unless and until we follow that, we will not be able to fix ourselves into the Krishna consciousness, the yogi, who has a control on all the senses. The best example set herein is the tortoise. Tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for a particular purposes. So the analogy here given is of the senses of the tortoise. The tortoise hands are actually very vulnerable, very soft. Okay, so they are compared to our senses, who are very vulnerable, who are very soft. If they feel hungry, they'll have this. They want this thing, they will have that. So senses always want to have more, or they are very vulnerable. While tortoise shell is the one which is very hard and not vulnerable. It is like a protective covering. So that is what is needed. And I'll also take up here, I think it's not defined here in the purport, or maybe I'm mixing few things, that all these senses gives us happiness or some kind of a pleasure. Okay, that's the reason. Or it's our bound, like for example, we may want to buy something, or we may want to wear something. It may be fulfilling. It we may think that it's giving us happiness, or maybe giving happiness to our mind or body, or our ego, the intelligence, that those three subtle senses that we have defined. So so but these all have all these happiness that the senses think, or the mind or the body thinks are the happiness for ourselves, are actually not the true happiness, because they are very temporary. We eat once and we want to eat more. Okay, or maybe like we eat once and then next time we are again hungry, so that is not making us happy actually. Or we wear one set of clothes, or we buy one car, and then tomorrow or maybe after a few years we want to buy more. So that hasn't given us the pleasure. We think that this is our happiness, this is what which gives happiness, and we are always after, our actions are bound to fulfill the happiness of these senses. While the truth is, it's the soul which is to be happy. Okay, the soul is the one which is yet deprived of its food. And what is soul's food? Soul's food is being in the Krishna consciousness, or being in like doing everything for the Krishna. So I'll read it. I think now I'll be able to relate here. The best example with the tortoise. Okay. The Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. So the person who's in the Krishna consciousness is always um, thinking of Krishna or is in the service of Krishna. Say, for example, Prabhuji is teaching us. So he is devoting this particular time to in the service of Krishna in the form of teaching Gita. Okay. So that means utilizing your purpose. And so this act of his is a food for the soul. And the soul which needs Krishna, which is always in a happy state with the Krishna consciousness, so that is these kind of activities can abstain us from moving towards the other side. That is where we give everything for the senses, because we have talked so much about that we have to control our senses. We should be able to you know uh, uh, have control on the senses. It should be like snake charmer. We should be able to control the senses. But how will you do it? The best way is to engage ourselves into Krishna's service, which Prabhuji is doing. So, also following the do's and don'ts that the scriptures have given. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead for his own satisfaction. So, what is the service of the Lord? The Lord is telling him to go and fight. So that's what I think is expected out of Arjuna at this time, that in the service of the God, you should go and fight rather than for your own satisfaction, means to control his senses, to serve his senses. Keeping the senses always in service of the Lord is example set by the analogy of a tortoise who keeps the senses within. Um, yeah, so that's that's
Excellent.
what I understood from this.
Excellent, excellent, Mataji. I
Thank you.
highly
Thank you.
appreciate it. So
Thank
I
you,
think
Prabhuji.
you are now you have understood the key concept, which is what Krishna will teach in the next verse. You have already understood that. So so very happy to see these details being spoken. Yeah. So Mataji has
Thank you,
actually not
Prabhuji.
left much to cover. She has covered most of the points, but just the why the tortoise has been used here, because as Mataji said, whenever the tortoise senses some danger from some predator, some external force, it immediately withdraws its limbs inwards. Okay. So why does it do it? Because the shell is so hard, so unbreakable, then it covers itself. The protection is sufficient enough. Okay. So what Krishna is saying, that you withdraw the senses inwards. What does it mean? Which means our senses generally try to obtain something which pleases them. Okay. So the eyes want to see something beautiful. The nose wants to smell something fragrant, aromatic. If it is food, then that kind of smell. Or the ears want to hear something very nice. It could be music for some people. It could be bhajan for some people. It could be a speech for some people. It could be animals for some people. It could be anything. Yeah, for a father and mother, the voice of the child is what the parents would like to hear. So then the skin wants touch from somebody. It could be the opposite gender, it could be a small child, it could be an animal, it could be a cold air or breeze or something like that. Yeah. And what else is remaining? Tongue. Yeah, the tongue wants palatable food. So the senses, they try to obtain pleasure out of these objects, which are called as sense objects. Okay. And why this is bad? because these are external, and as Mataji rightly said, they give you temporary pleasure, not a kind of a permanent happiness. So if you hear some nice music and your desire is satisfied, tomorrow a new desire will develop, and that will require satisfaction. Third day another desire will develop, and every time the desire will be stronger and the quantity will also be larger. So satisfying that desire will take you a bit more extra efforts than the previous desire. At a certain point of time you will not be able to satisfy them. Okay, so now what happens is, when you say we have to take it inwards, that means you have to satisfy the soul and not the senses, which means you now we are just in the second chapter, but when we reach to the fourth and fifth chapter, then you will understand what Krishna is actually meaning to say here. Meaning, the senses should obtain pleasure at a spiritual transcendental level and not at a material level. Okay, so all these sense objects, which are material sense objects, they give you pleasure temporarily, but permanent pleasure, happiness can be brought by scriptural studies, bhajans, kirtans, glorification of Krishna, and these kind of activities. That gives you permanent pleasure, permanent happiness. So Krishna is saying, bring them inwards. And he is saying, a person who is able to do that, he is saying, Tasya Prajna Pratishtita, his intelligence is rightly situated. Okay. Then we will be covering this point, which I'm about to say, in verses 62 and 63. But in a nutshell, summary level, let me tell you the process and steps involved in sense gratification. So what happens is, at a certain point of time, we do not even know that there is a certain so and so sense object which can give me pleasure. Let's say, for example, okay, take the example of a liquor. Okay, let's say there is a 15-year-old boy who has never seen liquor, but he, when he becomes 15-year-old or say 20-year-old, he sees his friends drinking. He sees his relatives or people in the movies or some influential people, they are drinking, and then they are very happy, and they are appreciating the liquor in whatever form it is a lot, and that creates some desire in him. Okay, which is basically the stage of perception. So this develops a desire to acquire that sense object. Okay, so if a boy sees a beautiful girl, he develops a desire to have the girl. Then liquor or whatever it is. Then what happens, the stage of desire, it becomes more and more, the desire increases strongly, and one makes a resolve that I want to have it, I will have it, and he starts performing actions to obtain or to acquire that sense object. And then the desire grows further, and he starts, if he is lucky, he will actually obtain that sense object, and if he is not lucky, he will not be able to obtain. If one obtains, then he will start enjoying that sense object, and gradually he will start getting entangled because the desire will increase further and further. And if he cannot obtain, then he will get frustrated, and either he will perform some action out of some frustration, or he will start desiring something else. But the process will then continue. So if I desire liquor now, and I am able to satisfy my desire, then I will start desiring another form of liquor, or I will desire a car or a bungalow or a beautiful girl or something else. But the desire will remain same, Only the thing is the sense object will change. And which senses do we wish to satisfy? That sense can change. But the desire will constantly be there. Okay. And in the verses 62 and 63, Krishna goes in amazing depth. Amazing depth. These two verses are something which one can do PhD upon, just two verses. Now, practically, we cannot physically withdraw our senses like the way Krishna has told. So basically, we are supposed to basically we are supposed to give satisfaction to the senses via performing spiritual activities, Krishna conscious activities, which give them permanent satisfaction. On top of that one, they reduce the desire for material satisfaction. Okay. So why this is important? Let's take one small example. Let's say you are a boatman, okay, and you have been given a boat and you have been given oars also to row the boat. So you have been told, okay, there are these two passengers, you need to take them from one end to the other. And you have been constantly for hours and hours, you have been rowing the boat, but you are surprised that the boat has not moved even a single bit, but you are constantly rowing the boat. Then after a while you realize, oh, there must be something wrong. Let me see. And then you look around and you realize that there is a rope that was tied to the boat, and the other end of the rope was tied to a big stone. Okay. And the stone was like practically immovable by just one person. So it was impossible that you rowing the boat will move the stone also. So now in this context, the stone is like your material desires and the boat is like your spiritual journey. So it is impossible for us to progress on the spiritual journey if we try to satisfy our material sense desires constantly. So material desires always take us to the wrong direction compared to the spiritual activities. So that's why it is said that it is important that we withdraw it. Okay. Any question on this one?
No, Prabhu.
Rohini Mataji? Okay. Karima Mataji, all clear, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So now let's look at verse 59. किसका है verse 59?
Deepak Prabhu, he's not here today.
अच्छा, he is not there. Okay, ठीक है. Okay. विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Translation: though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense object remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Okay, what do you think this verse is trying to teach us? Looking at the translation at this point of time.
Prabhuji, I had done some studies about this verse also. So it's talking about that is comparing somebody who's not given the desire at all versus who are given the who's not given the the desirable things, desirable objects, versus to somebody who are given the desirable objects but in the name of Krishna conscious or in a controlled fashion. So it says that person who's been abstained from anything, still the taste of those things will remain. The memory or the taste will still remain. Oh, you know, Like for example, if daily you go on a particular way by car, okay, and then we tell you that don't go by car. Every day you have to just go walking. So you'll always remember, oh, I'm not given car now. I'm not given car now. So you're walking on the path, but you're still remembering about the car. So the taste of the car or the luxury of the car in this nutshell is still remaining. Okay. While if I say, okay, today I'll not give you a car, but I'll give you public transport or I'll drive you there. So you are given a particular thing in a controlled fashion. Or if we want, if the or and all this is done in a Krishna conscious way. So these are the two things that are being compared, and in reality, it's comparing somebody who's in a samadhi, who's become a yogi, and who's left the worldly matters. So that person who's remembering Krishna and trying to obtain, the happiness of the soul through that way, versus the person like us who are in the family affairs, in the daily worldly affairs, doing our chores, but in the name of Krishna, as you described before, like that. So you given the sense or desirable objects, but in a controlled manner within the name of Krishna is what is being said here.
Okay. To a certain extent, yes, but uh, he actually means something different here. Okay,
Okay.
we will take two examples to understand. Let's say there is a person who likes to eat sweets a lot. Okay, now there is some physical issue. The doctor comes, he does the tests, he realizes that okay, he is a very high diabetic person. Now the doctor says the first thing you have to reduce is intake of salt, and you have to stop sweets altogether. Now this person understands that eating sweets is harmful for his health. Okay, so he also says, yes, I will try to do it, I will do it. Yeah. Okay, so then when the family is celebrating some event, there are sweets around, he is constantly controlling himself. He looks at the sweets, he even smells it, but he takes a vow, no, I have decided not to eat it, I will not eat it. But when somebody is eating that sweet, he is, he is looking at them in a very pitiful manner. And when somebody is appreciating the sweets, even his mouth starts salivating. Yeah, but he is controlling. What will happen to such a person? There will be to a certain extent he will control, but to what extent? At a certain point of time, he will give up that control. Let's say he wants to eat, but his wife is saying, no, you're not allowed to eat. His children are saying, no, you're not allowed to eat. No, we will not let you see also. Even if you see, we will not let you touch it. Something like that. तो जबरदस्ती डाक कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर. So at a certain point of time, let's say this whole family goes for some kind of function and this person is staying behind at home. क्या करेगा वो ऐसे टाइम पे? कोई देख नहीं रहा है. He will try to satisfy himself with the sweets. So what this means is he has controlled him, but the taste for the sense objects still remain. Rasavarjam rasopyasya. You have tried to give up the taste, but raso apyasya, that it still exists, the taste still exists for sense objects. That's uh, one. Okay. Okay, we'll take this one example only. Now, what is Krishna saying? Okay, let's say this diabetic person, okay, is given something to eat which is sweet, but it doesn't harm the body. So now what has happened? He is able to fulfill his desire, plus he is not accumulating any health issue also. Correct? So what Krishna is now highlighting, that the previous example that I gave you, meaning he is saying, about the tortoise that you may withdraw your senses inwards, but the fact that you were forced to withdraw it inwards itself means that you do not have sufficient control over your senses, and there is a chance that the senses may get swayed away by the sense objects. Now let's say just for the sake of it, now take our example. We have decided many years back that we will not eat non-veg. So on the day I took the decision we will not eat non-veg, it was taken based on intelligence. It wasn't done based on any kind of compulsion. So what this means is that there were times when people, friends, colleagues used to sit on the same table as me and they used to eat non-veg. But luckily, by Krishna's mercy, there was never any desire developed in me. Now, I know my brother long back, he used to drink liquor. And then sometimes he used to feel bad about it. And then he used to take a decision, I will not drink. But that desire for drinking liquor still remained. He used to control that for a week or two or 1 month or 2 months maximum. But again, he used to start drinking. So both these examples are there. What did we do? We decided that we will eat only Krishna Prasad, food that is offered to Krishna, and we do not offer non-veg food to Krishna. So we decided we will eat only that. So that was basically helping us to overcome that desire. But in the case of a mechanical control of I will not drink henceforth is taken out of some kind of markat vairagya, which means instantaneous decision to renounce yourself, not planned properly and not having a proper base foundation, and just like a monkey, the renunciation is decided. So there is a good chance that because you were fed up of XYZ, you took a decision of renouncing XYZ and come to ABC. But tomorrow, when the ABC also becomes irritating and frustrating and it has satisfied your desires, then either you will want to come to XYZ or you will go to PQR. And that is means that the basis on which you took a decision not to do something, that basis itself was faulty. So what Krishna is saying is param drishtva nivartate. Give them the higher taste, after which automatically they will not want to go to the lower mode. Now let's say, okay, a person who has lived in just one room kitchen, okay, for the first 25 years of his life. Now if that person gets an upgrade to, let's say, a 3 bedroom apartment, and now he is staying for 10-15 years in a 3 bedroom apartment with his family, wife, kids and all that. Now if somebody tells him to go and live in a 1 room kitchen, will he want to go? He will say, no, no, that's too small, impossible, my family cannot survive there, right? Then if that person is given a villa, 7 bedroom villa, and he stays there for 15-20 years, and then after that we tell him now you have to go to a 3 bedroom flat, he will say impossible, impossible. Where will my whole furniture accommodate, and what about the garden, and what about the Porsche and all that stuff, right? He will not be able to. So what has happened, the higher taste has removed the lower taste. Now, in this context, what Krishna is saying is, you give your senses the higher taste, that is the spiritual taste, after which they will not never want to come to the material taste. That is the essence of this particular verse. Okay. Um, there was a small example in our own life. One day, my daughter, uh, meaning my daughter used to see my wife working in the kitchen. She was around 3-4 years old that time, and she used to see my wife cutting vegetables and fruits with a knife. So one day, meaning my wife was cooking, and she kept her, made her sit on the kitchen platform, and coincidentally, she took hold of one of the knives. Now, my wife had multiple options. She could have given a tight slap to her and taken away the knife, or she could have snatched the wife away in a very violent manner, or she could have just politely spoken to her nicely and all that and took the knife from her. Okay, my wife did speak to her, but nicely, but she did not give the knife back to my wife. So what did my wife do? She gave her an apple to her, and because she could not hold the apple in just one hand, she kept the knife on the platform and she held the apple in both the hands. And then my wife was able to take the knife and keep it away, far from her. Now, what did it achieve? It achieved many things. Yeah, that so she was not hurt. She neither physically nor mentally. My wife did not need to scold. My wife was later able to explain her. She was able to understand why knife should not be taken and all that. So what happened? Apple was more attractive for her than the knife, and that's why she held on to it. That's precisely what Krishna is saying, because your senses are now currently oriented towards material sense gratification, sense objects. That's why they like it. But when when you start giving them this higher taste, that is the spiritual stuff, the senses will not want to go back to the material sense objects. So this is like a strategy that Krishna is saying, that the previous strategy of withdrawing the senses inwards has a weakness. But the new strategy that I'm telling you, that is far better than than the previous one. Is this clear?
Ji, Prabhuji.
Yes, bro.
Okay, so the one word you should notice, that there is this word niraharasya dehinaha. Okay, so what happens? Niraharasya dehinaha meaning ahar meaning food. Nirahara meaning deprivation of food. Okay, so so if you deprive somebody of something, then what happens? If the deprivation is long enough, maybe that desire, hunger will die away automatically. But on a practical basis, it doesn't happen that way, right? The deprivation is only for a certain duration. For that certain duration, that person is able to somehow control that desire. But the moment uh, there is a scope to fulfill the desire, then the floodgates open. And fin jitna that person was not able to do for that duration of deprivation, उससे ज्यादा वो करता है बाद में. तो अगर let's say the diabetic patient is um, able to control his desire for eating sweets for say 1 month, और बाद में उसको जब हाथ में गुलाब जामुन आता है 1 kg का, तो वो क्या करेगा? ही इज नॉट गोइंग टू स्टॉप एट 1 or 2 or 3, जितना मैक्सिमम हो सके खा देगा वो. दैट इज गोइंग टू बी more damaging for him than eating one gulab jam a daily basis. इसके लिए the recommended method for giving up material sense gratification and adopting spiritual sense gratification is gradual. Yeah, some people may not be in a position to stop certain thing completely on a single day. हाँ, तो उनके लिए ग्रेजुअल किया जाता है उसके लिए. ओके, सो लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल, ओके, नॉनवेज का ही एग्जांपल लेते हैं. सो somebody may not be in a position to stop completely eating non-veg. तो उसके लिए क्या रेकमेंड करते हैं कि भाई ठीक है, ओके, देर आर मल्टीपल टाइप्स ऑफ नॉनवेज, विच इज द लीस्ट प्रिफर्ड फॉर यू. तो बोलेगा ठीक है, सो एंड सो थिंग. तो बोले कि ठीक है पहले वो स्टॉप करो, ओके। देन फिर क्या करेंगे, ही विल ट्राई दैट फॉर अ मंथ एंड देन ही कैन से ओके यार आई वाज एबल टू स्टॉप सो एंड सो थिंग, नाउ लेट मी ट्राई स्टॉपिंग सेकंड थिंग। तो 1 or 2 or 3 वो भी ट्राई करेगा, तो ग्रेजुअली ही इज टेकिंग अ कॉल, ओके। देयर आर पीपल हु आर अनेबल टू कंट्रोल दैट, इवन दैट एज वेल, तो उनके लिए कुछ अलग मेथड अप्लाई करते हैं। बट पॉइंट ये है कि इफ यू abruptly stop without developing the necessary level of intelligence, then there is a good chance that you will fall back and you will do more than what you would have done otherwise. So that is why Krishna is saying कि sense control as a strategy has a drawback. Why? Because the person may continue to fulfill his sense, and the better way is to feed them which will fulfill their desires but in a better manner. अभी गाना सुनने के लिए अच्छा लगता है, राइट? So then hear Krishna's bhajans and kirtans. That will also satisfy you. So many sannyasis and so many devotees are there. They sing Hare Krishna mantra so beautifully. पूर्ण नाच करने का, डांस करने का मन करता है उसके ऊपर। वे अगर देखने के लिए अच्छा लगता है तो कृष्णा के मूवीज देखो, कुछ हियर करने के लिए, पढ़ने के लिए अच्छा लगता है तो कृष्णा के बारे में पढ़ो। एंड अगर डिबेट अच्छा लगता है, किसी किसी को बोलने को अच्छा लगता है, तो कृष्णा के बारे में बात करो, कृष्णा के बारे में डिस्कशन करो, ठीक है? एनी क्वेश्चन?
No, Prabhuji,
No,
all
Prabhuji.
good.
Is this clear? Are you agreeing to it, or you think
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
not practical?
totally, Prabhuji. This has actually happened with me like 5, 6 years back when I started onto this path. I used to eat non-veg and also used to drink alcohol. And suddenly, uh, after having non-veg, I started having this feeling that I should not be eating it. And but every, I mean, now and then, whenever I used to see people having around me, and I used to say, okay, let me just have it. And then after having it, I have used to have a feeling that no, 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 I should not have eaten. I didn't feel nice. So from inside, I was not feeling nice after eating it. And over a period of like it took me like 4, 5 months, and a day came. So I was trying to refrain. So the frequency from 1 week non-veg went to 15 weeks and to a month. And then there was a party, I had non-veg there. And that day, there itself, I decided that today was my last day of having non-veg and not have it. And after that, I never felt like even eating it. And similarly, then the egg left and also the alcohol. Now I feel, why do you want to drink? There's no point having that stupid temporary pleasure. We might as well, because probably God's mercy is so much that He's bestowing, the other happiness. That's the reason that thing I started refraining from all this. Now I don't even I don't even think about it. All non-veg, egg, alcohol, everything is stopped long back now, like long back.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, very, very true, Mataji. Many of us devotees, we have kind of similar experiences. So I used to eat non-veg to the extent that I used to call myself non-vegetarian, meaning vegetarian people avoid non-veg. I was calling myself as non-vegetarian to say that I avoid veg. ऐसा था. Which and इतना कि days like एकादशी, my mom used to tell me, अरे सचिन कम से कम आज तो मत खा, आज एकादशी है करके. तो I used to tell her, यार एकादशी and all that you follow, I'm not going to follow. तो मैं खाऊंगा करके, ऐसा होता था. And to push me further towards non-veg, Krishna arranged in such a manner that I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and we were doing a project with ICICI. That time it was not ICICI Bank, it was just ICICI. And they had a free lunch every day for everybody. And उसमें variety of non-veg होता था. तो हम लोग पागल होते थे कि कभी खाना मिलता है करके ऐसा, और क्या क्या खाते थे, ऐसा हो रहा था। तो उसमें और नॉनवेज की प्यास बढ़ती बढ़ती रही उसमें। Then, luckily, after coming to Dubai, I came into contact with ISKCON, and for almost 6, 8 months, constantly we were hearing lectures and kirtans and different katha, and so many things were happening. And constantly I was hearing non-veg khana kyun nahi chahiye karke. So it at a certain point of time, the intelligence was set nicely by Krishna, एंड फिर सिर्फ एक इवेंट होने की जरूरत थी जब वो ब्रेक होना जरूरी था। तो वन डे व्हाइल कमिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया, माय मॉम गिव मी सर्टन सम स्टफ ऑफ नॉनवेज, एंड वो गंदा था, वो स्मेल बहुत ही गंदा था उसका। इतना कि मुझे खाने के बाद ऐसा लग रहा था कि आई शुड वॉमिट इट आउट करके, इतना गंदा था वो। एंड मे बी वो स्टेल हुआ रहेगा, क्या होगा, आई डोंट नो, बट वॉट एवर इट वॉज, इट टर्न आउट टू बी completely beneficial for me. I took a decision at that moment itself, enough is enough, I am quitting non-veg. So many people they find it difficult कि यार चारों पांचों चीज नहीं छोड़ेंगे, पहले एक दो छोड़ते हैं करके। आई सेड नहीं, इफ आई वांट टू स्टॉप आई विल स्टॉप completely, otherwise what will happen, I will stop one or two things and I will increase the intake of the remaining things. तो मैंने वो किया नहीं, मैंने ओवरनाइट सारा का सारा छोड़ दिया, and till date by Krishna's mercy I never felt a desire to have it again. So Abhi, since we are talking about it, there is no point of taking a new verse. So we will take 2.60 in the next week. And Abhi, just we will discuss about question answers only, if you have anything. Rohini Mataji, we were not able to hear you today. Ji Prabhu, any questions, any comments?
Prabhu, I think we all have a similar story. I mean, not exactly same, of course. Well, I want to share my experience. It
Please.
was like 10 years ago. Until 25, I used to eat everything. Meaning, especially my mom's food was my favorite, non-veg. Then, when I went for masters, this is at Sydney.
Yeah,
Uh, this place, is famous for non-veg. It's even in McDonald's, you'll not get a veg burger. That kind of place it is.
yeah, yeah.
But thanks to Krishna, I mean, I met some of the devotees from North Sydney Temple. Actually, they were part of a Bhakti Yoga club sponsored by my college, and they
Okay.
used to bring prasad every day when they come. I have sessions So the food, of course, we are talking about higher taste. This is like another level altogether. For
Yeah,
me, it was easy for me to leave non-veg then, meaning I got the higher taste, meaning literally the taste of the food. I mean, and I had there were some good books which I got to read about scientific part of it. The higher taste. There's a book as well, if I'm not wrong.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kurmadas.
yes, right. And there were some recipes and how it explains about our body, why we are not designed to, like our body is not designed to eat non-veg, things
Yeah,
like that. So yes, I was fortunate, but yeah, thing is, I spent last 25 years. I mean, let's say, since I'm 10 years old, I'm here in UAE. I'm from Kerala, but imagine I had to go to Sydney to realize certain things.
yeah, yeah. Correct.
This is, I mean, I mean, of course, we all have our, like experience to, to learn from and to
Correct.
share with.
Correct.
So yeah.
So very nice actually. But see, meaning Krishna will ensure that if he wants to drive you on a certain path, he will create events in your life in such a manner that finally you will come to the path that he wants to. And that's why I always tell everybody that it is a big fortune. I'm not sure whether I showed it in this class or not, but it is a big fortune that you all have, initiated the journey to study Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, it's a very long way to go, but at least you have initiated that journey. So don't give up this path. Don't give up. It's okay, on the path, it is very much possible that some of the questions you have in your mind, I may not be able to answer. Okay. And we will even try to bring some very senior devotee who can answer your questions. Yeah. It may also so happen that some of your questions, even if they do not get answered, they still, it doesn't matter on the journey towards Krishna. Sometimes Krishna himself ensures that you do not like that answer. Okay. So when the war was over, the Mahabharat war, um, Yudhishthir was very remorseful about having so many people killed in the battlefield. He was considering himself as the sole responsible person because it was for his victory that the war had happened and so many people died. He was thinking, I should have let Duryodhan take that kingdom. At least people would have not lost their lives. So Krishna tried explaining him that no, and Krishna, if he has to explain, obviously he will explain in the best possible manner, but still Yudhishthir was not convinced. Then what Krishna did, he took him, Yudhishthir, to Pitamaha Bhishma. And Pitamaha Bhishma, Yudhishthir asked him many questions. And he, despite his state of the body, he was giving answers to everything. He himself is a Mahajan, right? A highly knowledgeable person. And then he was convinced. So what Krishna did, actually whatever answers Bhishma gave, Krishna could have also given. But purposely Krishna kept him unsatisfied, okay, about the answer, so that he goes to Bhishma, so that Bhishma gets an opportunity to answer and Bhishma gets the glorification. Otherwise, you imagine, had Krishna spoken all of this, Vishnu Sahasranam and so many things would never have come out. Also, it was an opportunity for Bhishma to see Krishna at the very last moment and then leave his pran. So Krishna arranges purposely that you should understand or you should not understand a certain question. So what I'm trying to say is, on this path, there will be times when your questions may not get answered, but still it doesn't matter. Continue walking on the path. Krishna will ensure that at the right time you will get answers. There have been questions in my mind, and 4, 4, 5 years later they have got answered. Literally, even some of the questions get answered even now also, which have been in my mind since a very long time. But it practically does not matter. So have firm faith on this path, have firm faith on Krishna, have firm faith on Bhagavad Gita, and walk on this path. Yeah. Non-veg khana, nahi khana, liquor chodna, nahi chodna, and all. These are all small things. They are all byproducts. Yeah, byproducts of something which are automatically going to happen over a period of time. You do not need to exert yourself too much of pressure and in an artificial manner leave it. वो automatically हो जाएंगे. The most important thing is continue walking on this path with firm belief on Krishna. Things will automatically fall in place.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We will take verse 60 onwards next time. Please don't miss the next 2, 3 classes minimum. huh? Until verse 63, absolute fantastic meaning these verses have about sense control. 64 onwards अगर आपको ब्रेक लेना रहेगा तो नो प्रॉब्लम.
Sure,
ठीक है.
Prabhu.
हरे
Prabhuji, you
कृष्णा.
can write the list of who all to be,
हाँ,
like which
sure.
verse who is covering. That keeps us engaged.
Yes,
And
sure, sure.
I want to ask one question. It
Yeah,
it may be out of the Gita, or I was I wanted to search about the senses, and I got this from the Sri Bhagavatam, Canto 2. Okay,
yeah,
where they have talked about all these 13 senses. Okay, and then there is a line which I couldn't understand. So they said that these are the 13 senses are supplied to us by various arrangements of gross or subtle forms of natural energy. Full stop. And it is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the products of inexhaustible permutations and combinations of the forms taken by natural energy. So I understood that inexhaustible permutation combination forms
Can you tell
taken
me
by
the
natural
verse
energy.
number? Canto
It's
2, you say?
written, yeah, 2.2.35 purport. Yeah, it's exactly
2.2.35. Okay.
2.2.35. Yeah. So I didn't understand the meaning of the word. It is equally evident that our objects of perception.
I think Prabhuji,
Hmm.
I'll
Ah,
just sign out because
yes,
Parth
yes,
is
yes.
sleeping.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure, sure,
I
sure.
I'll,
Thank you
I'll
so
make.
much. Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Okay, and it is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the product, Oh, okay, 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 okay. So what happens is basically the energy of Krishna can be divided into two categories at a broad level, if you see. Okay, one is spiritual energy and one is a material energy. Okay, the
Okay.
material energy, what it does is basically to bind us into this material world. It comes up with various forms. Forms meaning not just physical form, the form of a sense object which can give us some sense pleasure. एंड दिस इज इनएग्जॉस्टिबल मीनिंग हम लोग इमेजिन भी नहीं करेंगे कभी हम लोग को फूल अच्छा लगेगा पौधा अच्छा लगेगा या एनिमल या सम वुमन या सम एक्टर या सम स्पोर्ट्स और वॉट एवर इट इज okay, so these are various combinations inexhaustible that the material energy it takes, it represents itself by a certain form और हमें वो अच्छा लगता है हमें वो okay. And हाँ तो ये सारा हो मटेरियल होने के वजह से वी गेट अट्रैक्टेड टू इट बट व्हाट ही इज सेइंग व्हाट प्रभुपाद इज सेइंग दैट द person who is seeing it, if he starts seeing with a spiritual vision, okay, then हमारा जो वो material dissatisfaction है वो कम कम होते जाएगा वो. And that is what he's saying, that is the big difference between spirit and matter. Spirit meaning what is above matter, what is transcendental to matter, that gives you satisfaction at a permanent level, but matter gives you satisfaction at a temporary level. And that is he's saying that this is the difference between spirit and matter.
And the objects of perception, that it is equally evident that our objects of perception means
So we perceive something,
when
right?
we
We
perceive, yeah, so we
huh,
perceive that as physical matter or a smell or
yes, yes. So the word maya, माया का मीनिंग ऐसा है कि माँ इन संस्कृत
Maya
मीन्स
means
नो.
किसी के हाथ नहीं आएगा, right?
हाँ
Yeah,
माँ
yeah,
द
okay.
वर्ड माँ itself means no, no. Okay, या meaning this.
Mm,
So maya meaning not this, which means what you
mm,
are thinking of something is actually not that.
okay.
To
Mm,
think of, let's say, a car gives us pleasure.
mm.
To think that this is a sense object which will give me a pleasure is actually not that object which will give you a pleasure. That is why it is called as Maya, not that,
It
not
is our
this.
perception,
It is
but it is
our
our
perception.
perception.
And that is
Perception, but
why there are many, many such
false.
type of material objects. That's why it is called as objects of perception.
Perception. Okay.
So like illusion, Prabhu?
Yes, perfect. Yes, illusion.
Yeah, that's why it's called the life is also called dream, right? Like in like a dream or an illusion where
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
is it like that, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine,
So see you.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a
Hare
lot.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu. Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.